kick off today's event by welcoming everyone to this, great location. Thank you very much for coming along. I hope you enjoyed the refreshments earlier and the show. Certainly these guys put my cocktail making skills absolutely to shame. That said, over lunch, if anyone's interested in comparing espresso martinis recipes, that's a conversation I'm very willing to have. So as we get into it, obviously I'm not Duncan Bennett. My name is Bede Hackney. I'm the Director for SDDC and EUC for VMware across Australia and New Zealand. Unfortunately, Duncan couldn't make it today, so in his absence, and he does send his apologies, but in his absence, it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you to today's session, to kick it off and to host proceedings. I guess I wanted to reflect on a few things. For those of you who had an opportunity to join the VMware earnings call last week, you might have noticed that for the second consecutive quarter, the ANZ business was called out as a high-performing business across VMware globally. And I guess personally, I'm thrilled to be a part of what is a really successful local team. But I'm also, really excited to be a part of the success of what is now officially a $6 billion business. And one of the, most exciting market opportunities that we're executing in is the public cloud market. And so I wanted to take a moment to, reflect a little bit on that. There's been a lot of analysis done and predictions made on what the size of that market is. One of those predictions was some analysis done by IDC that was released recently. And they estimated that the ANZ public cloud market was a $909.2 million business in 2014 in Australia alone. But more interestingly, their prediction is that by the year 2018, that'll be a $1.7 billion market opportunity, which is a compound annual growth rate of 17.2%. So we're very excited to be executing in a market that's growing at that sort of rate and at that size. And I think today's announcement, the theme of today's session is really to focus on some opportunities that we're bringing to that market. It's a very significant day for VMware. We're officially launching the One Cloud unified platform for virtualized compute, virtualized networking, and virtualized storage to address what we call the software-defined data center. Defined in software, VMware's platform enables our customers to create a consistent cloud experience across both private cloud and public cloud to rapidly develop and deliver any cloud-native or traditional style application. The platform also often offers customers openness. So Aaron, my colleague, is going to talk a little bit today about VMware Integrated OpenStack, or VIO, which really embraces that OpenStack environment and gives customers choice to choose the best platform for developing their applications, managing their applications, and also managing and developing their cloud environments. So we're very excited about that. Some of you will be aware of the announcements. You will have followed the global announcements earlier in the week. The point of today's session is to try and bring those announcements to life in two different ways. So we want to talk a little bit about how those announcements are relevant specifically to the Australia and New Zealand market. We're also going to be joined by Aaron Steppat, who many of you will know as our Senior Product Marketing Manager, to drill into a little more detail about the product announcements. And then the session will be closed out by McCulloch from Infront. So Infront are one of our premier partners. They're also a beta testing partner. And in fact, I don't think this is the first time this has been announced, but it's a very, very appropriate day to have been on this because earlier today in the US, Infront were announced to be our APJ SDDC partner of the year. So we're in expert hands with Aaron and Ben, and it's a perfect time to have them here. To get onto the news of the day, during today's session we're going to drill into the different elements of the software-defined data system, the product releases and the technology. So you'll see up on the screen, we're going to talk about VSphere 6, which is of course the platform of this one cloud notion that we're talking about. We're also going to talk about how VSAN or Virtual SAN 6.0 or virtual volumes extends virtualized storage into the software-defined system. Then we'll talk, Aaron's going to expand on VIO, that VMware Integrated OpenStack that I mentioned earlier. And we'll close the session out with some discussion about VMware's NSX and how NSX and vCloud Air can come together to allow customers to extend their networking environment seamlessly across public and private clouds. So that's really the focus of today's session. That said, before I delve into the detail, I wanted to just take a few moments to really step back and just explore why and importantly how we've managed to get where we are today. So the theme of today's event is liquid business, and apart from being what is frankly a sensational excuse to have a lunch at Flying Fish in this fantastic room, liquid business is how we talk about our vision for the evolution of business to move into this new fluid and dynamic style of delivering IT. You know, what we're seeing is the old rigid structures of the past really melting away. And we've seen that impacting a bunch of different industries. So, you know, whether you look at education, where the classroom now, or education now extends beyond the classroom. If you talk about the workplace, it's interesting, the workplace no longer includes the physical place of work. You know, it doesn't matter where we're doing work, it's broader than that now. You know, we've also seen software really disrupt some pretty significant industries. You know, in the last couple of years we've seen software disrupt transportation. Prior to that we saw it disrupt payments, and prior to that we saw it disrupt retail. So some traditional industries being disrupted by software-defined approach. And I guess for us, the theme of this is for businesses to thrive in today's market, IT really needs to be delivering in a more flexible and dynamic fashion. We believe VMware's software-defined approach is core to that. Enabling businesses to develop, deliver new and existing applications, again, whether they're cloud-native or traditional style applications. This week's announcement of our industry's first unified platform allows customers to break down IT silos into one cloud to develop and run any application while keeping data safe and extending applications and information to anyone, anywhere. In our opinion, that's the essence of what we talk about when we talk about liquid business. VSphere 6, which Aaron's going to talk about in a little more detail, it's the foundation of one cloud. To give you a sense of the significance of the announcement of VSphere 6, in VSphere 6 alone, we've introduced 650 new features and innovations. And Aaron's going to talk about a few of them. To touch on a couple of the significant ones though, VSphere 6 introduced long-distance migration, vMotion if you will, with zero downtime across long distances. The other really significant, or another really significant development is continuous availability is now available for even larger VMs. And Aaron's going to drill in on that a little bit more. Earlier in 2014, we revealed a research paper that we put together at IDC that talked about the positive impact, or estimated the positive impact of virtualization in the Australian business to be approximately $11.2 billion by the year 2020. Late in the year, we extended that by predicting that customers would leverage virtualized network with NSX and virtualized storage with VSAN to really expand that positive impact even further. Today we take one step further in that evolution as our unified platform offers new possibilities in a secure and trusted environment. So with that, I'm going to sit down and enjoy my lovely entree and hand over to my friend and colleague, Aaron. Thanks.
Thank you, Bede. It was great to Thanks very much. So, good afternoon now, ladies and gentlemen. Lovely to have you company this afternoon, and thank you for joining us for these launch highlights, if you will. To really kick it off, Bede touched on what some of the market trends were, what we're really striving towards and driving to, which is this unified platform. And I guess it's driven from really what CIOs have been wanting to achieve for some time, which is really one cloud or one location for all of their applications, with the diverse locations might be. And if we have a bit of a look at that one, we really first start looking at any application anywhere. So from that perspective, we look at application types. We're looking at things like applications that need to scale up. So huge growth, massive, monolithic style applications. But we're also looking at applications that need to scale out. So we're looking at big data analytics, looking at things like Hadoop as examples of that. So the idea is that no matter what the nature of that application is, this is the landing ground, and there should always be a place for it across that VMware portfolio. We also then have a look at the element of choice, and that's where we refer to open management. So Bede touched on what we described as our OpenStack integration, which we'll have a little bit of a talk around VMware integrated OpenStack. That is really that platform that allows both the core IT and those core production environments, the ITs you've come to know and love, deliver capability like self-service and automation from the traditional tools that we have. But it's really embracing that DevOps community as well. well. So really bringing in the guys who are used to that open source flavor of choice and also the automation stack that comes from there, and being able to consume that across that consistent environment where IT still have control and governance over as well. So that's where that integrated open stack, and that's where we enable choice from the management perspective. And of course, underpinning all that one, we have that unified platform. You know, VSphere has been around for I think upwards of 15 years now, and it's had so much innovation that we continue to bring new innovation. Bede talked around the 650 new features that we've built into the platform, and I enjoy taking you through each and every one of them. No, I'm kidding, it's all fine. But we will touch on certainly a few. But that platform is bulletproof and continues to provide that platform for innovation that puts us ahead of the game today. And of course, with that one being unified, we're also bridging in the storage integrations and the storage platforms itself. And we'll touch on our approach to software-defined storage as well as part of this. We're also, of course, looking at what we're doing on that networking side as well. So we'll touch on what it is to really enable that true hybrid cloud approach using those new NSX integrations as well. The idea, which is still consistent with our strategy around software-defined data center, industry computing and hybrid cloud, this is still the best platform for public, private, and for hybrid cloud out there today, and we'll be looking to ensure as well. So let's start off with VSphere 6, and of course VSphere 6 is the underlying hypervisor and virtualization platform for our other capabilities known as vSphere with Operations Management, and of course our vCloud suite, which is the all-encompassed porting your data platform for your private cloud. And with that, what we choose to focus on first, apart from the 650 plus features, is really that increase in performance and the increase in scale. So I'll give you some more of the specifics on that directly. The next thing is really what we've done from the availability side, and we've put this platform onto steroids as far as that goes. We've had significant enhancements across our vMotion capability, which in essence is the live migration of a workload from point A to point B with no downtime. But we've also extended that again for how you can protect larger applications from an on-premise perspective. Okay, so that's what we're talking about fault-tolerance capability. Last but not least, the simplification of the management. So we've always had our vCenter capability, which is the one-to-many hypervisor management tool, and we introduced a new web client about 3 or 4 years ago now. And what we've done is we've spent a lot of time, a lot of investment, and a lot of development dollars on optimizing that user experience from being able to manage that infrastructure as well. And we've seen a 5-fold increase in performance across the very client that we're using to manage the environment. So we're making the administrators happy in the mix as well, which is a really positive thing. So let's firstly have a look at the scale. Now remember, we're talking about 2 types of scale. We're scaling up, so if you have a look at the SAP HANA sort of implementations or those monolithic applications you have, if they require more grunt, they're going to get it. And we are the best platform for that. So we're having a look at the number of virtual CPUs per virtual machine, for example. We're now up to 64 on that. Okay, so sorry, that was in the last release. We're now up to 128, so we've doubled that number of CPUs you can have in that. We're also having a look at how much virtual RAM you can have in a single virtual machine. We're up to 4 terabytes there. So that's just from the workload perspective. The underlying host that provide that capability have also had an enhancement of the speed and performance of that platform. So we're looking at how many hosts you can have in a single cluster now. There are 64 hosts in there. That is an incredible and amazing amount of virtual machines that sit across that one. And the reason why we scale it that way is to address those scale-out applications. So you look at things like big data analytics, where you have benefits from being able to spray out multiple nodes. This is the right platform you can do that on with all the efficiencies that come with it at the same time. Okay, same with the increased number of virtual machines in the cluster. And of course, the interesting thing is we'll see how much RAM and how many CPUs we can do per host. Just an interesting story, when we're actually testing it, these numbers came from literally the biggest box that we could actually get a hold of from our OEM partners today. So conceivably, it can actually go beyond that one, but this is just what we were able to get tested from the technologies today. So this is a platform absolutely built for the future. So long distance vMotion, this is very exciting. This is a feature that I've certainly been waiting for some time, and I know many customers have been itching to get their hands on this capability. So what we're looking at is essentially cross-continental or even coast to coast in some cases, depending on how big your geography is. We're in a fairly large one probably are. But we're looking at the ability to migrate a workload with no downtime and with a round trip of 100 milliseconds or less. So that actually gives you quite a bit of geographic coverage to be able to do live migration of workload. And in the context of this, we're not putting in the context of disaster recovery. This is really talking about disaster avoidance. Okay, so we want you to be able to have those workloads to be up and to be reliably informed. So if it's a follow the sun model, you can migrate the workload ahead of when that zone comes online. If you've got a planned outage of a data center, for example, you can migrate those workloads ahead of time so the workloads aren't going to be impacted by that. They're really the use cases that we see here. We'll see a large appetite for that one pretty much across all sectors of our customer base today, so that's a very positive thing to look into there. We also enhanced it a bit further as well. So previously you used to have essentially one instance of vCenter to be able to migrate workloads from. We can now do clever things like what we call cross vCenter VMware. So I can have a vCenter, a management instance over here, and I can have a second site with another vCenter instance separate from there, and we can now lift and shift workloads across those two environments. Right, so it gives you even more scale and choice across putting into various data centers that might traditionally be kept siloed or separate in your environment today. So it's really a true benefit of the uptime story there as well. If we move on to the next one, the next massive feature is really the enhancement of our fault tolerance capability. If you cast your mind back a while, it used to be only a single CPU, and that addressed some of the workload, but it really wasn't enough. So what we did is we essentially rewrote the booklet, and we now have up to 4 virtual CPU fault tolerance. Now the nice thing is that you start having a look at the workloads that we actually detected that. 60% of your workloads out there are probably running, I'd say, at least 2 CPUs, but then you start looking at the larger applications with the 4 CPUs, and as far as the whole gamut of virtual machines, we're covering about 90% of the workloads that are out there today with the fault tolerance capability. So customers have been chomping the bit and really itching to get this capability to protect those mission critical and really important applications. And if you're not aware of quite how it works, and don't panic, I'm not going to go into the numbers of it all, but essentially fault tolerance is where you have your active virtual machine, and there is a shadow of that virtual machine that is in lockstep with it, so that if this host fails over here, it doesn't miss a beat. Okay, this one instantly comes online, and the application has 0 downtime. Okay, so that's a pretty amazing capability, especially if you have a look at the nature of applications that have been wanted to be protected by this technology for some time, specifically transaction heavy ones. Let's move on to OpenStack. So OpenStack is an API, it's not a product. Probably good to call that out first and foremost. And the way we sort of used to liken to it was, you buy the VMware management and automation portfolio, and it's the complete car with all the features and functions that you want. OpenStack is like buying the car in 1,000 different pieces, and you have to put it together to get to the point that you want to be in. All right, so it's kind of an interesting analogy. What we chose to do was to enable choice through helping our customers build that OpenStack portfolio. So VMware integrated OpenStack is taking all of those 1,000 pieces that made up the OpenStack API, and we've assembled them into the best-of-breed platform optimized for VSphere. Alright, so when you have a look at the integrations beyond VSphere, we're talking about what we're doing with our networking stack through NSX, our storage stack through VSAN, our operations management portfolio through vRealize Operations, and of course then enabling the rest of the peripheral portfolio to also talk to OpenStack to deploy and manage those workloads going forward. So what we've done is we've made the life very simpler for our DevOps communities and for those who have a particular bent towards open source tools. OpenStack has a very strong following in that side. So we're catering to that audience to ensure that they have choice, but on the best platform that IT have visibility and control as well. So this is a very exciting thing. To give you an idea, in true open source fashion, we're making this available to all of our Enterprise Plus customers, okay, as part of their VSphere Enterprise Plus entitlement. The only thing they'll need to pay for is the support. And if they want support, it's about US $200 per CPU, and the minimum will be 50 CPUs to start off with that. All right, but if they just want to run with it and support themselves, they're free to do that with their Enterprise Plus subscription. So it's a very exciting way of actually bringing it to market and enabling those organizations to consume that. Where we actually see, I guess, a lot of the customer appetite for that, we're expecting to see it in the tertiary education sector, so the universities will adopt those capabilities. We're also expecting perhaps some of the BFSIs to adopt that one for their developer audiences, because they have a lot of development in those houses as well. So we're pretty much going to see interest across multiple sectors in the UK too. Okay, software-defined storage. We're sailing through at a fairly good pace. I hope you're all still with me on this. Software-defined storage is an interesting one, and notice how we never really called it storage virtualization. All right, that's a term that's been in the market for years. The reason we call it software-defined storage really encompasses the approach that we take to it. If you think about a three-layer cake, the bottom layer is what we call our virtual data plane. That's where everything plugs into the hypervisor. Okay, so that's the presentation for that. The next layer is where we term it as the data services plane. A bit like a Chinese menu. So we say, well, what availability do you want for the storage? What mobility would you like? What level do you want DG? What are these sort of feature sets that you want to choose from? Now, the secret really sits in the storage policy-based management engine, which sits on the tier. And that's the intelligence of it. This is where we put the application in charge. So the application will be determined by a policy to say, I need this amount of availability, this amount of performance, and these characteristics. The engine then says, okay, well, what have I got presented to me? There's a pool of storage over here that can deliver as close to that policy as I can get. Let's go and put the application there. And we're continually assessing that application to ensure it's getting the policy and the service level that it requires. So that's our approach to software-defined storage. How we plug into that was virtual SAN. That was our first instance on that piece. And that has been significantly enhanced. Now, it's kind of funny on the versioning numbers. We went from VSAN 1.0, you would have thought we would have gone to 2.0. We actually went to 6.0, so it was that much enhancement of the platform. And we also aligned with our VSphere launch obviously as well. Features that we introduced there. We introduced an all-flash version of VSAN. Okay, so it's purely using solid state, and that's really designed to truly accelerate those business-critical applications. These are generating all the money through our customers as well. We've also given a performance boost to the traditional VSAN portfolio, the hybrid approach. So that was the mixture of solid state and spinning rust, so the traditional magnetic storage. We've also incorporated some enterprise data services into the mix now. They really translate into things like snapshotting and cloning capabilities. We've made some significant file system enhancements to be able to know that as well. And the nice one is that we're also expanding the audience for who can consume VSAN too. And we've done that through enabling JBOD, or just a bunch of disk support, essentially external disk shells for computing. What that means is that we're able to bring far more scale and performance to things like blade architectures, but also some of those traditional form factors as well, which is typically, if you think about blade, not a lot of storage you can fit into a blade, so really not the best fit for VSAN. We're changing that. So if you're a blade customer out there today, you've got some good news ahead of you on the VSAN side as well. If we focus on use cases, our premier use cases are still the same today. So virtual desktop infrastructure, that's been the key of one of those. Tier 2, Tier 3, or test dev workloads. They're constantly spinning up, spinning down, all sorts of stress testing, so VSAN really handled that very well. Looking at some cost-effective disaster recovery, so being able to converge our storage and compute and have that in your colo site, for example, to replicate soon. That's great, being able to protect those workloads. But the latest use case that we've introduced is those business-critical apps. So where we had the initial approach saying, this is probably the best for this workload, we're basically opening up to saying, hey, any application, fill your boots. It's a great spot for it on top of VSAN. The next innovation or approach to software-defined storage is what we talk around virtual volumes. And this is how we embraced our partner community. So VSAN, it was hyper-converged, and I guess a lot of our partners first off said, oh, hang on a minute, you're competing with us. I guess, well, no, we're actually very complementary. And we extended our complementary partner approach by giving them the tools and the integrations called virtual volumes that make the virtual machine natively understood by the SAN or the NAS array that's provided by those partners. Okay, so where I talked about that three-layer cake before, it's enabling that intelligence engine and the data services plane to talk to the arrays directly. And so the context and the optimization behind that is, if you have a look at the way storage was traditionally done, a hypervisor presented a bunch of disks, and the storage array said, this is a LUN, logical unit, here's a bunch of disks, you can do what you like. The game's going to change. So with virtual volumes, the array says, oh, you're a virtual machine. I understand you, I know what you want, I know what your characteristics are, let me bring together the appropriate storage to deliver upon that service level requirement via that intelligence engine. Right? So virtual volumes is a very powerful thing for all those partners there. And there's more than just one of them. We actually have a rich tapestry of partners in the mix. Everything from your traditional storage players to your emerging players to even some of the hybrid players sitting in the mix as well. So we've truly embraced our partner community, delivering and bringing virtual volumes to market as well. And with that, I'd like to hand over to Ben McCulloch, and he's going to give us some insight into his experience on the beta and some partner context on this as well. Let's welcome Ben. You good? Awesome. Fantastic.
Good afternoon. My name is Ben McCulloch. I'm a partner systems engineer for Infront. So you all know I'm an engineer. I apologise if I get a little techie. I'm a techie at heart, so distracted by shiny things. Infront is a company I founded a little over 16 years ago. Has been actually just been recently named 2 years running the SDDC Partner of the Year for APJ. Also, recipient of a couple of global awards from our partners, but VMware the focus of the What I've been asked to do today is talk a little bit about the customer benefits, I suppose, and the partner point of view of the VSphere 6 release. Infront's primary markets are here in Sydney and in Canberra. On Canberra base, and my customer base is mostly federal government, a little bit of small business, business variety. Up here in Sydney, we're focused on professional services, so, just to, I suppose, focus on some of the things that we see as value in the VSphere 6 release for our customers. I'm going to talk mostly about federal government because that's where my experience is. But certainly some of those benefits will parallel the without any doubt. Looking at the features during the beta, it's apparent to us that the cross-VSAN to vMotion, which Aaron has talked about a little bit, certainly from the federal government point of view, is going to be a real, I suppose, value driver for these customers. Disaster recovery, business continuity is a real key requirement for federal government departments. It's mandated by ASHMO that large federal government departments must have a business continuity plan, must have a disaster recovery capability. And this VSAN to vMotion starts to expand their choice in the way they deploy those technologies. Traditionally, we'll have a VMware solution lifecycle recovery manager providing disaster recovery capability. But as Aaron mentioned, the disaster avoidance being able to move virtual machines while they're running between data centers starts to enable that disaster avoidance and planned maintenance, we would ask, without having to take your own risk. So we see that as a key play for our large customers and certainly those that are sensitive to business owners providing customer-facing services. The other things we looked at were the virtual volumes. Infront is a big part of VSC. We do a lot of business with those guys, and certainly part of the VMC portfolio. The virtual volume integration, again, with that business continuity and disaster recovery capability, allows our partners to be far more granular, right, and it reduces complexity for those administrators that are trying to figure out which VM, which volume, where does it go, when does it fail over, and how does it do it. Now we can start applying policy early in. So each VM is treated in its own way. And you can look at creating service level agreements and service level response times for each VM. Okay, so again, another key value driver for our customers. So I did mention I am a techie, and I do have hands-on tools quite a bit. If anyone's had experience with the old VSphere 5 or 7 line, I don't want to rubbish it, but I'm going to say that I was the one to use it. The improvements in VSphere 6 were immediately apparent. I mean, in the beta in my lab that I'm using it, and across the engineering course at Infront, with all the performance improvements actually make it a tool of choice rather than a tool of necessity. So this again is the value we see, and I think it's VMware responding to customer feedback saying that the tool is wonderful. We understand why you don't work client away from the old client, but it needs to be better. So outside of that, I think the integration with the storage ecosystem has started to become apparent with the big volumes, cross-site integration, cross-VSAN integration. These are all kind of things that our customers will respond to. I believe, given the federal government, VMware's penetration there is really quite big. There are two of our clients. We have a very broad spread across the T2 ecosystem.
hear you a bit, sorry. We're struggling to hear you. Yeah, sorry.
I apologise. That's the first time anyone's ever told me. So, I don't know if I'll cover too much more. I'm happy to take some questions if anyone has any, or just ring me later on. Certainly, thank me for the opportunity to talk to you guys.
Very good.
Okay, so I guess that's the full part of our lunch sorted, which is really nice. So we have an opportunity for questions and answers across the rest of the lunch. Also, if any of you like sort of one-on-one time with any of the speakers today, Sam and the crew, please so let's enjoy our lunch. Thank you very much for coming. Thanks, Ben. If you have questions,
Oh, well, I have a question though. Someone who tweeted this question in. Live Q&A. Yeah, live Q&A. Yes. This is from someone who is engineer. Is all their front-end junk still welded to Windows, or can you add his Linux and Mac? I understand from there's been big about how big an improvement this website is. The kind of supplementary information I got is she thought it was shit. Yeah. So I will say that there were some shall we say usability and performance challenges with the earlier web client, diplomatically speaking. But the enhancements, as Ben touched on, have been significant. So we've listened to our customer base, we've really enabled that type of performance perspective, which means that more people are prepared to consume it across more platforms, to your point as well. We still do have the C# Windows client in there. Having said that one, that is now the secondary tool for the larger audience. So, and to sort of articulate a bit more, I guess, you'll actually, today, you can actually do more things in the web client on the platform than what you can do in the C# client that used to be. So there's actually less functionality now with Windows client than what there is in the web client. Right. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. We didn't actually talk much about the NSX piece though, and that's my bad, of course. But just whilst we have the opportunity, the announcement that we've made as part of this launch on the NSX piece really talks to the ease and ability of getting workloads from your private cloud environment into the public cloud environment of Air, and NSX being the common fabric to be able to stitch the two together. So with the new NSX integrations we've made with our Air capabilities, that's now bringing that stretching of the network fabric, the secure extension of that fabric as well, that true agility and mobility element, which is absolutely needed for hybrid cloud. If you can't connect and transport workloads easily without having to re-platform, it's a bit of a lost battle. So that's where that NSX integration with Air comes into play. And of course, it means that we have that truly common platform that's consistent across those environments that enables that particular use case. So that's what that's.
Is this a way to subtly broaden the NSX? Because for the last couple of years,
you like some red?
Discussion NSX as being something very large users, service providers, and now you're saying if you want to do hybrid application, which presumably a order of field, then NSX is the key piece of that.
Yeah, so and to your point, it's actually a very good point that you mentioned. So when we first acquired this era a couple of years back now, the use case was absolutely for agility. All right, so organisations that experienced massive volumes of change, had the mobility and were being constrained by the traditional networking architectures. That was the true or original use case for NSX. Where we've seen a transformation that one is the more customers that have been consuming it and acquiring it, they're actually seeing specific use cases being addressed by NSX. And the one that we, I guess, had on for 2014 and also going to 2015 was microsegmentation. Exactly. So microsegmentation is basically talks around being able to isolate workloads within the walls of the data center without having to necessarily just rely on the crunchy exterior provided by your perimeter firewall. And the whole premise behind that one was if you breach that firewall, malware, other sort of vulnerabilities could run amok inside the data center because there was no internal protections. That was a great approach, but before NSX was operational networking to to manage. So managing all the policies, managing hundreds if not thousands of firewalls, managing the security workloads, they're always big problems. So micro-segmentation has really been that dominant use case, which is what's really kickstarted NSX, certainly for us. And now what we're doing is leveraging the further feature set within NSX, very comprehensive, to again do all that stretch networking capability to enable that false adaptive support.
No, that's yours.
Oh, thank you. Making the point that micro-segmentation is actually probably a broader size of the customer. So yeah, where it's starting at large services get involved and run. But yeah, and so both micro-segmentation and also extending NSX into big cloud era are probably both things that you would rightfully assume will bring down the capability in terms of customer size. As you will.
Ben, have you done a pilot? Have you used this new version?
Absolutely. So we've been running a radio 6
Some of your customers have this.
So I haven't had any customers who openly discuss the beta. I've worked closely with a number of departments who use VSphere extensively. I know that many of them are excited about it.